שמחה שאתם כאן ושמחה על ההיענות המאוד טובה של כל המשתתפים כאן. אני אגיד שיש לנו בעיקר שיחה היום עם case study עם החברה לניהול פסולת בווינה. אנחנו בעיקר נשמע ממנה, מסימון, מניקולה דה סימון. היא תציג לנו את המצגת, ואז נעשה איזשהו דיון והעמקה בשאלות ושיש לכם בנושא. לפני שנתחיל, אני אבקש קודם כל להגיד שהשיחה היא באנגלית. תהיה הקלטה ואנחנו נעשה תרגום לאחר מכן. אז ככה אתם תוכלו גם מוזמנים, אם אתם רואים ורואות צורך למישהו להעביר עם ה-case study הזה מעניין, אתם יכולים, אנחנו נספק הקלטה ותרגום. זה פעם אחת. אני חושבת שזה ברור, אבל אני מבקשת להשאיר את המצלמות פתוחות ולהיות בקשב. אם אין, זאת אומרת, אם אתם צריכים לעשות דברים אחרים, אז אנחנו נעביר לכם את ההקלטה והכל בסדר, אבל כאן אני מבקשת שנהיה בקשב לנושא. אני אבקש שאלות בצ'אט תוך כדי, אתם יכולים לכתוב בעברית, אני אתרגם, ואחר כך גם נפתח את זה, אז אתם תוכלו גם להעביר שאלות לניקולה ישירות אחרי שהיא תסיים את המצגת. ומי שעוד לא עשה את זה, אני מבקשת לכתוב את השם באנגלית, שם משפחה באנגלית, ואת העירייה או צוות אזורי, או מאיפה אתם בעצם. זה. עכשיו אני רוצה קודם כל, הנה, לספר לכם קצת על למה בעצם, and now I'll switch into English. Simon.
Yeah.
Simon Nicola, sorry, I'm gonna now get it right. Nicola, right? Your first name.
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Okay. So, firstly, I want to say, well, we chose this subject to be presented here in our webinar in Civics. We see through our innovation teams, but also our regional innovation team in Eastern Negev, that this is an issue. Waste management is one of the most tangible municipal services that we have in Israel and around the world. But it's also one of the most expensive ones and to manage rightly. And when we were in Vienna with the Elad team, you see this picture when we visit the management facility. This is one of the stories that we said that we have to bring back home. I think that it's represent a really significant issue. Before we've arrived to Vienna, we've been told that we have to go there and see this case study, and it shows the management or waste management in several aspects. Firstly, cleanliness that we have within our innovation team, the city cleanliness. But also as economic cycle, in a sense, to reduce the cost of this waste management, but also to create actual revenues. So I think that Nicola will show and get us a few examples of how it feels and how it's produced in Vienna. But I think it's a really good example. And one last note that I think is relevant, please see it as a case study. Vienna is, Nicola, 2 million residents, right? In Vienna?
2 million, yeah.
2 million residents. So this is a different city in Israeli perspective, different city that is hard to compare, also in terms of budget to Israeli cities. Take it as a case study, as a benchmark. Think throughout and Nicola's presentation, what is relevant for your city? What is relevant that you can take back home? And what can also inspire? It does not in any sense, a copy-paste in a sense for you guys to continue or implement. And I'll say that in Hebrew as well, so it will be clear. מה שאני אומרת בגדול, קחו את הסיפור הזה של וינה כבנצ'מרק, כסיפור השראה, יש להם 2 מיליון תושבים, ולכן, ותקציב מאוד מאוד יפה, גם לנושא בעצם הפינוי אשפה והמיחזור. קחו מה שאתם יכולים מתוך הדוגמאות האלה בעיקר. And now I'll present you, Nicolas. So, Nicolas Simon, the Nicolas Simon, is the head of the external relationship at MI48, which is the management company, waste management company. She joined the city of Vienna at 2018. Initially, she led the waste prevention project, and later was responsible for the international affairs and external relationship since 2023. She managed cooperation, knowledge exchange, global partnerships. And I want to say that we met Nicolas in Vienna, and she presented to us and the Elad team the case study. And now I'll stop my share screen, and I'll give the microphone, the floor to you, Nicolas.
Yes, I just shared my screen now. Can you see it?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah? All right, good. Yeah, thank you very much for the kind introduction. Don't have to say anything about myself anymore now. I don't know if maybe you already explained it in the beginning, but I would suggest that I just do my presentation and people can post questions in the chat, and you have an eye on the chat.
Perfect. I'm eye on the chat, and I can say, אתם יכולים גם לכתוב למי שזה, אפשר לכתוב שאלה בעברית, and I'll translate it. You can write in Hebrew, and I'll translate to Nicolas, and I'll interrupt you if I think it's relevant for this issue. But other than that, I'm saving the comments and discussions for later on.
Yeah, we can have a discussion in the end, but if there's anything like very specific to what I'm talking about in that moment, we can also do it during the presentation, I would say. Okay, so as you already said, Vienna has about 2 million inhabitants. There are two specifics that are important about the city. One is that it's not only the capital city of Austria, but it's also 1 out of 9 provinces. So in Austria, we have 9 different provinces, and each of them have their own waste management law. So the legal situation on waste management is quite diverse, I would say. So we have 10 waste management laws in total, 1 country law, and then 9 different regional laws. And so we have...
Nicolas, sorry, I'll interrupt you for a minute. You're not in a presented mode. If you want to... presentation mode.
With my the PowerPoint, you mean?
Yeah, I see it in a note, like not in presentation mode.
Okay, because for me it's full screen.
Maybe try to have it full screen and then open it.
Okay.
And if not, we'll manage it this way.
Am I not sharing it anymore now?
Not sharing it anymore.
Okay, then I will go full screen first. And then share it. Is that better?
Let me see. Wait, it takes a few seconds. Yes, perfect.
Yes? Okay, good. All right. So in Vienna, we have our own Waste Management Act that is just for Vienna. That is one very specific.
Can everyone please mute? Shiran, can you mute?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Are we now also on the correct slide? Are you still on the first slide?
No, we are in the second slide, collection.
Jesus.
Okay, it's a bit complicated for me if you don't see the same thing that I see. Now I think we're good. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. To double check with my phone. I got it now. So The other very important thing for us is the number of households, which you see is 960,000, so close to 1 million. So not only do we have 2 million inhabitants, but we are also having a lot of 1 to 2 people households in Vienna. So household sizes are quite small. And for us, that's the important number because that's basically the number of our customers because we serve per household, right? So we have roughly 1 million customers. Now, what are the main tasks of my department? We are responsible for the waste management in Vienna, but we are also responsible for street cleaning for the entire vehicle fleet. So we buy, maintain, repair, and sell all publicly owned vehicles. And we have a number of other obligations like the Lost and Found service, the towaway service, educational programs, public toilets, many more. But we will not focus on that today. We will focus mainly on waste management and a bit of city cleanliness. So size-wise, we are quite big municipal department. We have over 3,000 employees, and about 90% of them are operational workers, so on the street, waste collectors, street sweepers, recycling center management, and so on. We have like 1,000 vehicles, I said already, and like 315 of those are the big waste collection trucks. And we have a very decentralized system. So we are in about 120 different locations throughout the city because we try that every worker and also every vehicle starts their day in their area of work. We don't want cars to be in a garage like 15 kilometers away of their collection area, right? So we have a lot of smaller garages and offices throughout the city to make that most efficient. For the Viennese model of waste management, it sounds quite simple. So we are responsible for the entire chain of municipal waste management. That includes the planning. Every 6 years, we publish a new waste management plan that sets the goals for the next period. We do the collection ourselves. As I said, we own our own collection trucks. We have our own employees. We don't lease employees. We have our own treatment plants that we use for the treatment of residual waste. And we have our own landfill for disposal. And it sounds quite logical. However, that is a very unique situation. We are the only capital in Europe where everything is basically owned by the municipality. So it gives us a lot of freedom that we do not have like private treatment plants that we have contracts with or cars and manpower on lease and so on. For the kind of like main framework that we orient ourselves when it comes to the waste management in Vienna, we look at that upside down pyramid that is made by the EU or published by the EU government that says that the main goal should be preventing waste. Then after reuse should come recycling, energetic recovery, and only as a last resort, like disposal should happen. Obviously, effectively in Vienna, the recovery part, so the energetic recovery, is the biggest quantity of waste that we use for burning. So we have around 1.2 million tons of residual waste that we collect per year, and about 60% of it is burned, so used for energy, and about 35% of it can be recycled. So that is the situation in Vienna, roughly. However, we try to tend to each of these steps. So we have like 53 different waste prevention programs. I will not go into them in detail today, but just to give you an idea, what does it mean, waste prevention? For example, in Vienna, it's not allowed for big events or markets like Christmas markets and so on to have disposable cups and plates and so on. So we use deposit system and reusable cups on every big event. That is waste prevention, because like that, the waste doesn't ever even appear. Or, for example, we have financial initiatives for people to repair their goods instead of tossing them. So when somebody repairs their fridge, they get like a voucher that is sponsored by the city to do so, to give them motivation to get their stuff repaired. Then on the reuse level, we have municipal reuse shops that I will talk about in a moment. Then for the recyclables, we use a source separation system that I will also talk about. And we have waste to energy plants for the residual waste that cannot be collected separately and therefore not recycled. One thing that we are very proud of in Vienna is that since 2008, we do not have any untreated waste going to landfill anymore. So almost 20 years now that we managed to pre-treat the entire waste that we collect and do not have to landfill any residual waste.
That's just amazing. אין הטמנה בווינה.
So
20 שנה.
So for the separate collection system, we have those different bins. We have a yellow bin that is for mixed lightweight packaging, so plastic packaging and metal packaging and wood packaging. So it's all collected together and is then brought to a sorting plant for material recycling. Then we have the red bin for paper and carton waste. We have the brown bin where we collect mainly garden waste and green waste. So it is not a kitchen waste container, but a garden waste container. The material goes to our composting plant. And we have colored and white glass, and then the black one for residual waste. So nowadays we have like 240,000 bins for recyclables and around 236,000 for the residual waste, so almost the same number of containers. And the reason why we use a source separation system in Vienna and not a sorting system is that the quality of the recyclables is much different, right? So I think everybody can imagine easily that when you think of a newspaper that comes out of the paper waste for the recycling industry, it has completely different properties than a newspaper you would sort out of the residual mixed waste. So we try to keep a high quality in recycling materials. So we have that source separate collection system. The way we now collect the different containers, as I already said, we have like 315 waste collection trucks. We also have 4 electric waste collection trucks by now. So we just started a couple of years ago to experiment a bit with electric vehicles, also for the big trucks. And we have the collection from Monday to Friday at 6 a.m. until about 1 p.m. And the reason we do it in those hours is we start early morning, so we are basically in the traffic for the morning rush hour, but we are already off the streets for the evening rush hour. And when we collect the waste, we actually go into the buildings. So all of our workers have a general key. They go into the buildings, they pick up the containers that are usually in a waste room or in the basement or in the inner yard. It can be different, but they bring them out, they empty them, and then they bring them back in again. And that's why in Vienna, as opposed to a lot of other cities our size, we do not have any night collection, because the Viennese people do not want strangers to come into their buildings during the night. So yeah, our operating hours are like that. And it's always 5 days a week. And if there's a holiday, then we collect on Saturday. So we stay on that 5 times a week system. And for the collection, what is also interesting to say is that, what did I want to add? Okay, it will come back to me. So this is for the everyday waste, we have those different containers. And then for all the waste categories that are not occurring that often, we have 13 separate collection centers throughout the city. So it's like for hazardous waste from households or bulky waste or old tires and so on. So the people can bring their waste there for free. So the positive thing is that they can bring it there and they don't have to pay for the disposal. The bit more challenging thing is that they have to bring it.
Yeah.
We don't have a pickup service because, it wouldn't be manageable for us at the moment. And here at the separate collection centers, people can also bring items that they don't need anymore, but that are not necessarily waste for our second-hand shops. So if they have, I don't know, a chair that they don't need anymore, they can bring it there and just donate it for our second-hand and reuse shops.
So I'm just highlighting what Nicola said here, and I think it's really connected to community education in a sense that you don't collect the other stuff, the other waste. The residents really come to those 13 collection centers and bring their recycles, right?
Yeah. So here at the separate collection centers, part of the waste is also for recycling, like the old tires, for example, are classic recycling material, or we have different categories of wood, for example, that are also used for recycling. But part of it, like, for example, mixed bulky waste, is also for thermal use. So not 100% of the separate collection center income material is recycled. But I mean, you have like about 45 different fractions of waste there, and it's all collected correctly. Because there we also collect hazardous waste like old medications, spray cans, colors, oil, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and one special goodie that we also have in all of our recycling centers is that we bring the compost from our composting plant there, and the people can take it for their gardens at home.
Did you? I think we only see the collection centers. If you switched into a different slide.
No, I will
Okay,
go to the composting plant in a bit and explain more about it. I just wanted to mention that here at the collection centers is also where we distribute the compost for free. So to end up with the collection system in Vienna, as another add-on to the container system and the recycling centers, we have 21,000 on the street waste bins. They look like that. So they are for the on-the-go waste. They are residual bins, and they are emptied by the street sweepers at the same time that they clean the street. And they also have like different slogans on them that are meant to kind of be like an eye catcher for the people. They have a special collector for cigarettes, all of them. So also as an incentive, obviously, for people to not throw their cigarettes on the street, but put them there. And they have a phone number on them, all of the containers, which is the number of our service hotline. And so we have a service hotline that is reachable from Monday to Friday now. Sorry, we just recently changed it. from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I think that is really remarkable every time I talk about this, because like we are almost better reachable than the city hall or the police. So
Oh, that's funny. Can you give us an example of why people call
yeah, so
call center?
people like either call directly regarding those little waste bins on the street. So sometimes they call to say this bin is broken or dirty or on fire, which also happens. So they with a complaint, so to say. Or sometimes they also call just to ask general questions like, where do I get rid of this certain item? Yeah.
Interesting.
So since we have this source separation system, we need a lot of doing from the people, right? So our whole waste treatment system doesn't really work out if the collection doesn't work out. And the collection is done by the citizens and not by us. So obviously it's a very communication intensive way of doing waste management. So we have a lot of information material, of public relations material, of advertisement. This, for example, is like a printout poster that we offer to the landlords to put up in the house as an information for the people that where it has all the information of what goes into which bins and what doesn't. It has all the addresses of the separate collection system and our second-hand shops. And usually it also has the current advertising campaign here in the corner. So yeah, we have a lot of information campaigns to also motivate the citizens. We also have our own department, which is a big advantage of being the municipality, because I'm sure a private company would not do such a thing. That is only in charge of going into kindergartens, into schools, to events, usually also for families, to teach about waste management. So we have around 25 employees that just do those waste management education programs. And we have the target to reach each child twice during the school years. So we try to reach them once between the age of 6 and 10, and then one more time between the age of 10 and 14. And it's very important for us because this is the only time that all the citizens of Vienna are kind of in the same system. Afterwards, we have no access to them anymore, more or less. And also kids are really great multipliers. So when you teach them about waste management, they get extremely excited, right? And they also go home and tell their parents. If we now change something in the waste management system, like we did this year, for example, single-use plastic deposit system started in Vienna. So PET bottles are now brought back to the supermarkets because you have a deposit on them and not collected in the yellow bin anymore. Then we also use direct marketing campaigns. So we usually then, in case there's like a bigger change, send like information material, and usually with a little gift like those bags you can see here, to all the households to tell them, oh, look, alert, something is new, something is different now. But that is something we don't do every year, but only on demand. Then the third step that is very important is that you make the information very easy to access. So there, on the one hand, we have that hotline I already managed, but of course we also have an app. And the app, on the one hand, gives you like a city map where you can look up all the recycling points. So all the next bins, the public bathrooms, but also the 13 bigger recycling centers and so on. And it also has a chatbot. So for those younger people usually who are not so keen on talking on the phone anymore, they could also ask questions there or put in complaints there. So what is also very important for us is to be very transparent about our services. Because as I already mentioned, but I need to mention it again because you cannot mention it enough, like all the citizens of Vienna are sort of our co-workers. We need them to play along, to do what we need them to do, so our waste system even works. And for that, it's very important that they not only know what they should do, but they also have a feeling that it's good, it makes sense. They need to trust us to do something good with their waste, because it's an effort for them, right, to separate the different waste and put it into different bins. It would be easier to put everything into one bin, so they need some kind of motivation. So we try to be very transparent with what happens with the waste, how we do waste management in Vienna. And one thing that we do is, for example, that we offer free guided tours in all of our big facilities. Here you see the waste incineration plant, 1 of 4. And once a month, it can be visited by citizens completely free of charge. And we also have the same at the landfill and in our composting plant. So we have like over 1,000 people visiting our plants every year. We also have 2 kind of like more publicly advertised events per year. Every June, we have an event on our landfill that is targeted to families, where we really invite people to come. We bring part of our secondhand shop there, so people can shop secondhand, but people can also do the tour over the landfill. We have a little stage, a little music, and so on. And we use like stuff like this that explains like what happens to the tossed away items afterwards, to give like a little background information. So we make the stuff look like, you know, just like a little free festival for your family and kids, but we try to actually throw knowledge and information on waste management onto the people. So onto our composting plant, that is a great example for circular economy in Vienna. So we have an open mine composting plant. We have about 120 tons income material there every year, which is the biggest composting plant in Europe. And it's about 10% of the collected waste, that is garden waste, that we treat there. And it is then turned into A+ compost. So we are quite strict about what we would like to collect in our brown bin, because we have to meet the compost criteria for our A+ label that allows us to sell the compost for organic gardening. So part of the compost, I already said, goes back to the people. It's distributed in the recycling center free of charge. Part of it is also put into potting soil, which we sell at the recycling center and in our reuse shops, and part of it is sold to private customers like farmers. So the composting is a very important measurement when it comes to climate-friendly waste management, because on the one hand, it is a very climate-friendly treatment of waste to compost the waste. And on the other hand, you also get out of a product in the end that can replace mineral fertilizers. And so it has a double climate effect, right? On the one hand, because it replaces the fertilizer, and because of the climate-friendly treatment of the waste. So yeah, that's a great thing.
Nicola, can I ask a question regarding this?
Yes, sure.
Is it something that the residents go and ask, or you just how do you give that back to the residents?
The compost?
Yes.
So the people know about it because we've done it for a lot of years, and the people who make use of it really just come with their own buckets to the recycling center, and there's like a big pile of that compost in a designated area. It's really like done in a very basic way, I would say, and they really just shovel it into their buckets and bring it home to their gardens.
That's great.
So yeah, it's also something we do not do any marketing on, because all of it is used,
Consumed 100%.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So we don't really advertise it to new people anymore. It's just like a word of mouth thing now.
I have a question from Hava. How do you make sure that the organic waste isn't mixed with other types of waste when someone I can't see this. Wait, in the compost centers.
You mean like the
Oh, here comes. She asked, like, how do you make sure that the organic waste is not mixed with other types? How do you know it's 100% what you need?
Yeah, so that is a very complicated topic, because in a big city, of course, like as I said, we put a lot of resources in communication and so on, so that people put the right material in the right bins. But of course, in a big city with 2 million inhabitants, there's always going to be people who don't, right?
Yeah.
And especially with the garden waste, as I said, it's quite delicate because we need to meet the quality criteria. So we have basically two lines of those garden waste in Vienna. On the one hand, in the outskirts of the city, so more like the outer district, we have a lot of people that live in their own house with their own garden. And all those people, they get their own brown bin. As soon as they have a green area, they get a residual waste bin and a garden waste bin. And there the material is really perfect, because the people, have their own bin and they treat it as their own and only put the garden material. Anyway, they don't want it to start stinking in their own garden. And B, obviously our people could track it back to the people if it was the wrong material. In the inner city, it's a bit more complicated because those brown bins are located in public areas. So the people bring it there, but it's completely anonymous. And we have a lot of very bad material there. And so what we do is that if our workers realize on a tour the material is not really fit for the composting plant, we have the possibility to relocate it to the biogas plant because it's less sensitive to impurities. And if we realize at a certain point, like it's really just used as a mixed waste bin and people don't put garden material at all, we also remove bins.
I understand.
Yeah.
Nicola, I see that we have 15 minutes left. So I would like for us to maybe, the other examples that we talked about, and then we'll open up for questions and answer if anyone needs to ask something specifically.
Okay, I will try and speed up then.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a very important slide for me because I always like to emphasize to the people that as much as we do nowadays in material recycling and so on, like 95% of the CO2 emissions that we were able to save went from the change from landfilling to thermal treatment. Wow. So that is really the big game changer when it comes to climate change and waste management, that once you do not landfill any waste directly anymore, the emissions go down. It's very important. So nowadays our landfill looks like that, not really like your regular landfill. So nowadays, since 2008, we only bring ashes and slags there. And we build like an artificial mountain. And once it's done, one slope is done, like this one here is done, we put soil over it and grass and trees. And then it looks really nice. So to the topic of street cleanliness, I will cut it a bit short. We have around 1,000 street cleaners in Vienna. We do most of the cleaning by hand because we also do the parking areas, so we cannot really use machinery there. And so they do like the brushing and stuff by hand, and they also, as I already said, empty those 21,000 street bins during their work. And on top of that, we also have 3,900 dog poop bag distributors, and that's also their responsibility to make sure there's always bags in there. We have some machinery, but we only use it after events, like when we have a marathon or a demonstration, a parade. The street is empty anyway. We can go through with those big machinery, but it's not really used on a daily basis. And one thing we also have that is sometimes an international learning example is we do have the possibility in the Viennese Waste Management Act to fine people for littering.
Oh, so you have a fine for
Yeah,
littering.
we have a fine. We have employees that are called the waste watchers. And when they see somebody throwing something onto the ground, they can give them a fine for it. We cannot fine people for wrongly collecting their waste, so using the wrong bin or something. But if they throw it on the ground, we can fine them. And we have like 50 waste watchers that are employed full time and 600 that perform it as a second job. So, for example, street cleaners that also are waste watchers. So, if they see something in their everyday work, they can fine people as well. And it's quite a lot.
How much?
So, in 2024, we had like 14,000 official procedures related to waste violations. So,
and how much is a fine? Do you know, or?
It's right now 50 euros, but it will get up to 75 next year. Inflation,
wow. Yeah.
But we like to make those prices more expensive instead of making like the collection fee more expensive, for example, because when people complain about the price, we can just say, well, don't throw stuff on the ground, and you can save your money. So I already talked a bit about the reuse shop. This is how it looks like, where you can bring your old goods at the recycling centers. And this is an inside to one of our shops that you visited in May. So basically, it's a completely normal shop. People, it hasn't changed yet here. No, okay. So people can come there and shop secondhand items. So it's like not a social market where only people that don't earn too much can go or anything like that. Everybody can go and just buy used items. And this is our second shop that we opened in 2022. So it's now 3 years old. And this is my last slide already. It was really fast now. So it's just a short explanation about how we finance all of this. So the way we do it is that we finance everything through a residual waste fee. So the people pay for their waste by the container size that they have. So to make it very simple, every household in Vienna has to pay a waste fee. It's not allowed to say, I don't produce any waste, I don't need a container, because we're not stupid. So the minimum you have is a 120-liter container that is emptied one time a week. And that will cost like approximately 5 euros per week. And if you now have the double size container, so 240 liters, it will cost double. And if you have the double times of emptying, so twice a week, it will also cost double. So it's a pretty simple calculation. And with that waste fee, we finance all the rest. So all the marketing, all the other bins, all the recycling centers, the waste call center, and so on. It's all financed through the residual waste bin.
Amazing.
Yeah, like in reality, it becomes a little bit more complex because we usually have apartment buildings, right? So the waste bill is shared by the number of apartments and paid by the landlord. So the people usually pay it through the operational cost of the house. But yeah, that is how the system works with the financing.
Nicola, I want to open up for questions, but I just want to, can you go 2 slides back? Not for the when you showed the store, but before the collection. I guess it's not more than 2 slides.
Yeah,
It's
I'm already going back on my computer, but it's
oh, it
kind
takes
of
time.
slow
Okay.
here. I don't know why.
Oh, this one. This one. Okay. So this is basically, this is not the store. This is where the residents put the recycled items, right? I think it's
Yes,
really beautiful that you have spaces for the bicycle and places. It doesn't look like a trash
that was
can,
really
right?
important for us that we have like a shelf and it also has a roof over it because, the people, even though they don't need it anymore, they are still attached to their things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you put like just a ton, a container, and say like toss it in here, we will sort it afterwards. People don't want to do that. So they put it like in this little shelf kind of for display, and they also know that it's not gonna get rained on because there's a roof and so on. So we were really thinking beforehand, how should this look like to also motivate people to put their things there, right?
That's amazing. We have few questions here. What do you do with the textile waste?
So in our recycling centers, the 13 recycling centers, we also have containers for textiles for reuse that we can also use for our second hand shops. If there is textiles that are considered waste because they're broken, we collect them with the residual waste and they are thermally treated. And there's also a lot of containers throughout Vienna for textile waste that are run by like social services like the Caritas, so not by us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Another question from Tali. Are there any initiatives that are led by the community, or do you find it mainly led by the municipality, by your company, the municipal company?
I mean, of course, there are also initiatives that are led by community, like everywhere, I would say. However, they usually stay much smaller, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And I would also say that since in Vienna we do a lot of things for the modern waste management system, it leaves less space, I would say,
Okay,
because a lot
interesting.
of stuff is already done. But like there is stuff like, for example, book exchanges is a classic one that you see like in the districts popping up, like those little shelves where people can bring their used books and other people can take them. That is like a classic community activity. Or what we also have is like a startup that started to have like kind of like composting toilets around the city, like on playgrounds and stuff. So we do have those community projects. And usually when stuff like that happens, let's say happens, we stay in the back, and only if there is something like really problematic for us, we would write a statement on it.
Okay. Unfortunately, we need to conclude. Do you have any like concluding? Oh, I see. You have take-home messages,
Yeah.
Nicola.
I do have take home messages. So, one thing that I think kind of was like in the background of my entire presentation, but I like to point it out in the end, is that there is a connection between a good waste management and climate protection. Because I am going to a lot of also, conferences on the topic of climate change. And I must say that waste management hasn't really reached those conferences yet. They never talk about waste management. And I find it really sad because it might not be the biggest climate issue, but it is a climate issue. And the thing is that all the solutions are already there. Whereas in the transport sector, it might be a bigger share, but they also don't have a whole lot of solutions yet. But in the waste management sector, we already have the solutions. Because Vienna has managed to have a positive net climate effect. So with our efforts in waste management, we actually save more emissions than we emit.
Amazing.
So that is possible. And another thing is that we very much believe, especially in a big city, that you need a combination of different things, like the separate collection, the energy recovery, but also the recovery of raw materials. It's not like an either or, because now, of course, there's a big trend of always promoting zero waste and stuff like that. However, it doesn't have to be black or white. Sometimes you need the combination of different sort of systems next to each other, because the waste is very diverse, and so is the right treatment of the waste as well.
Thank you. Okay, so we have another question from Khaled, but I want to conclude on our end, and then Nicola, if you can stay with us a little bit longer, show me if it's possible, then I'll ask Khaled's question to continue. But I just wanted, thank you. So I just wanted to conclude and firstly thank you for your time. And for all your knowledge and all that you do in Vienna. I think that your ending point is really connected to our method of how we work, in a sense that we think that complex challenges cannot be addressed by just one solution. It's a portfolio of initiative solutions that then shows impact, and we really see that in Vienna. It's amazing. And I call all of our participants. There were like so many examples of how Vienna is treating events or the hotline or the educational education and community and campaigns. And I've wrote the guided tours in the facilities and the compost soil, and I can continue with that. So basically, take what you have, and we're here for questions. Nicolas, if it's possible, if there is further questions, we would love to forward it to you, because I think that there's a lot that can be learned from this case study. So thank you very much. And whoever is busy, we're off. Sorry, Nicolas, you can.
I just also wanted to say thank you, and thank you for participating and for your interest in the Viennese waste management model.
Thank you. So whoever is busy, you can go offline. I'll continue a little bit with the questions because they are important. And I'll ask, how does it work in the industrial zones of Vienna? How do you recycle? How do you manage waste in the industrial zones?
So almost everything I talked about today is basically meant like the municipal waste, so household waste, because the MA48 is mainly responsible for household waste. However, we also operate in the company industrial waste area as one out of many companies. So every household has to give their waste to us, but every company can choose either us as a partner or another company. We don't collect that much industrial waste. And yeah, I don't know, when you talk about industrial areas in the city, for us, it doesn't change a lot when we just collect the waste from all the households. And if there's an industrial area and therefore less households, we just go to the households in between.
Okay.
And yeah, the industrial waste is mostly collected by specialized private companies.
I understand that. I think in the Israeli case, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it's mostly private companies, right? We don't have the city services private companies for the waste management.
Mhm.
Am I right? You guys, תראו לי, כאילו, you can open up the mics, and if you have question, you can just jump right in if anyone has more questions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I can say something to that, because I also do a lot of B2B benchmarking, right? And also in Europe, it's very usual that the municipality has private companies they work with for collection, for treatment, and so on. And the problem is that works as long as it's profitable. And that's why on several parts in my presentation, I mentioned that this is only possible when the municipality does it, because a lot of things like the educational program, they are only expense posts, right? We don't make money with that. We just do it because the city tells us to do it.
Yeah.
No, and it's our responsibility to also do waste education. But a private collector, I mean, they try to collect the material that they can make money with and not the rest. So there's always going to be like popular waste streams and less popular waste streams, which becomes a problem.
I have something to say to Nicola, if it's possible,
Of
please.
course, Tair.
I think it's really amazing to hear from your words how it's not only about garbage and waste, it's also about education and about community, and the way the city handle the trash is not really handling trash. It's really educating people, meeting the young kids because they are bring the message to the houses. It's really, you said some really bright things during the talk, and thanks for the inspiration. I think it's really meaningful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Tair.
I must say it's a little bit like over the years that I work in this industry now as a woman also. I realized a lot that people tend to try and find technology as a solution for everything. And especially if a woman then says that maybe, education, a sense of knowledge with the community, a sense of understanding and getting the people sensitive to the topic might actually do more for the environment than a technical solution. Then they're always like, oh, she's scared of the science. She's scared. She doesn't know anything about physics or so on. She thinks we need all those soft skills. But it's not like that. It's just sometimes it's the bigger handle.
Amazing. Thank you.
You cannot really solve every problem with technology. Most of it has to be solved with the people.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions for Nicolas?
Yes, I would like to ask question, Nicola. Thank you for your things. I'm Lior Boker from Yehud Monosol Municipality, and I like to hear how you deal with the dog dirt, with the dog feces over the streets. Do you have any plan? How can you deal with this bad phenomenon?
But I think I briefly managed that we have those bag distributors, right?
Okay.
So that is something that is actually a problem that we targeted, I would say, like 15 years ago, because 15 years ago there was a poll in Vienna where the Viennese people were asked what is the biggest problem in the city. If you could change something, what is it? And dog poop was like the number one problem, not only like on the first spot, but it had more votes than all the other topics together. So the mayor of Vienna looked at our department, of course, being in charge, and said, okay, I don't care what you need, I don't care what it costs, but you solve that. I mean, it needs to be addressed now. So we had like a 3-step program. First was the infrastructure that we started with those bag developers. So we completely diminished the excuse like, oh, I always clean up after my dog, but I forgot the bag at home. Second was like information campaigns. And the third, because it really didn't work without, is the punishment. That's how the Waste Watchers started, was to fine people who did not clean up after the dogs.
How do you find them? We heard about the DNA tests, if you heard about it, the DNA test.
We don't
but,
use that. We don't
okay.
use that. We just have like the Waste Watchers that basically when they see people, they find them. And then the world travels, you know. Now people just know it's forbidden. You get a fine for doing so. Obviously, we cannot catch all of them. But since it's a big thing since 15 years, I would say, because I talked about those Waste Watchers that fine people for littering, I would say it's around 40% dog poop, 40% cigarettes, and only 20% waste.
Okay.
Because that's the usual thing that people just leave on the street, you know, because of their way of thinking. I mean, with the dogs, to be very fair, I understand it's not fun to clean it up, but I mean, you need to force the people.
Yes.
And I think the thing that really was the game changer was the fines.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Leo. Okay, thank you. One last question before we leave? Okay, so I'll conclude and I say again, thank you, Nicola, for your wonderful work and inspirational work in Vienna. I think we got a lot from it, and so thank you again. And you guys, if you have any other questions, any follow-ups, please do send me, and I'll forward it to Nicola if needed. And we're here if you want to continue with one of those ideas and think about how we can bring it to Israel. Civic staff is here also as a help. So thank you. Toda.
I can share the presentation as a PDF, so you can
Perfect.
view
Perfect.
the different one. And if anybody ever wants to come to Vienna and look at our plans, you're very welcome.
Yeah. I second that and say that you should. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and it was good seeing you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.